The backstage hallway of Britain's Got Talent buzzed with nervous energy, voices murmuring, footsteps echoing, cameras rolling. Amid the chaos stood a 12-year-old Filipino boy, small in stature but carrying a dream far bigger than himself. His hands trembled slightly as he clutched the microphone, its cold metal reminding him that this moment was real. Beside him was his father, dressed simply, his face marked by years of hard work and quiet sacrifice. This wasn't just another audition. It was the result of countless late nights after exhausting shifts, when his dad would come home tired but still find the strength to teach his son how to sing. In their small living room back home, music had become their escape from worry, their bond growing stronger with every note. The boy glanced toward the stage entrance, where bright lights spilled onto the floor like something from another world. He could hear the faint roar of the audience beyond the curtains. Fear crept into his chest. What if he forgot the lyrics? What if the judges didn't like them? Sensing his son's anxiety, his father gently placed a hand on his shoulder and knelt to meet his eyes. "Remember," he said softly, his voice steady despite his own nerves, "we didn't come here to be perfect. We came here to be honest." The boy nodded, swallowing hard. He remembered his dad's words whenever doubt crept in, "Sing with your heart, not your fear." Taking a deep breath, he squeezed his father's hand. One last moment of comfort before stepping into the unknown. A stage assistant called their number. As the curtains began to open, father and son exchanged a final look. Whatever happened next, they would face it together. The bright stage lights hit them the moment they stepped forward, warm and blinding, forcing the boy to squint for just a second. The massive Britain's Got Talent logo loomed behind them, and rows of audience members stretched endlessly into the darkness. The boy's heart pounded so loudly he was sure everyone could hear it. They stopped at center stage. The crowd applauded politely, curious, cautious. The boy shifted his weight from one foot to the other while his father stood tall beside him, calm on the outside, though his chest felt tight with emotion. Years of dreaming had led them to this exact spot. "Hello," Simon Cowell said, studying them carefully. His expression was unreadable. The boy swallowed and introduced himself in a soft voice, explaining that he was 12 years old and had traveled with his dad to perform together. When asked why they chose to audition as a duo, the father spoke gently but firmly. He shared how music had always been their connection, how singing together turned ordinary nights into moments of hope. As the father spoke, the audience leaned in. There was something sincere in his voice, something real. Amanda smiled warmly. Alicia nodded, already intrigued. Simon raised an eyebrow. "So you're saying you've never had professional training?" he asked. The boy shook his head. "No, sir," he replied honestly. Simon leaned back in his chair, arms crossing slowly. The boy felt a flicker of doubt ripple through the room. He knew that look, expectation mixed with skepticism. The kind that could either break you or push you to prove yourself. "All right," Simon said finally. "Whenever you're ready." The music cue hadn't even started yet, but the boy felt something shift inside him. This was it. No turning back. He glanced at his dad, who gave him a small nod. A silent promise. And as the first note was about to begin, the entire theater held its breath. The music started softly, just a single piano note floating through the theater like a quiet heartbeat. The boy closed his eyes for a brief moment, letting the sound settle his nerves. When he opened them, the fear was still there, but it no longer controlled him. He lifted the microphone and sang the first line. His voice was gentle, almost fragile, yet perfectly clear. It carried a raw honesty that instantly hushed the audience. Whispers faded. Phones lowered. Even the judges seemed to lean forward without realizing it. The boy's small frame stood still, but his voice traveled far, filling every corner of the hall. Then his father joined in. Their harmonies blended effortlessly, years of practice woven into every note. The father's voice was warm and grounding, a steady foundation beneath his son's soaring melody. It was more than a performance, it was a conversation between generations, between sacrifice and hope. The song began to build. The boy's confidence grew with each lyric, his voice rising higher, stronger, carrying emotion far beyond his age. His eyes opened wide as he reached for the high note, and hit it flawlessly. A collective gasp rippled through the crowd. Simon's posture changed. His arms uncrossed. He leaned forward, eyes locked on the stage. For one suspended second after the final note, the theater was completely silent. No clapping. No cheering. Just the echo of the song lingering in the air like a held breath. The boy's chest rose and fell as he gripped the microphone, unsure whether that silence meant awe or disappointment. Then the audience erupted. Cheers thundered through the hall as people leapt to their feet, clapping, shouting, whistling. The sound crashed over the stage in waves. The boy's eyes widened in disbelief, his mouth falling open as he looked out at the standing ovation. His father pulled him into a tight embrace, both of them shaking. At the judges' table, reactions were just as intense. Amanda covered her mouth, tears welling in her eyes. Alicia stood up, clapping enthusiastically, nodding again and again. Bruno threw his hands into the air, calling the performance incredible. Simon Cowell remained seated for a moment longer. The boy noticed him last. Simon stared at the stage, quiet, thoughtful, then slowly stood up. The audience roared even louder. Simon shook his head in disbelief, a rare smile forming. "I have to be honest," Simon said into the microphone. "When you walked out, I didn't know what to expect. But that was absolutely extraordinary." The boy felt his knees weaken. His father squeezed his shoulder, grounding him. "That," Simon continued, pointing toward them, "was one of the most genuine performances we've had this season. You didn't just sing, you told a story." The father bowed his head, overwhelmed. The boy's eyes filled with tears as he realized they hadn't just been heard, they had been understood. The applause continued, louder and longer than before, washing away every doubt the boy had carried onto that stage. And though they didn't know it yet, something magical was about to happen. The applause refused to fade. It rolled through the theater like thunder, echoing off the walls as the boy and his father stood frozen under the lights. The boy wiped his eyes with the back of his hand, still trying to understand what was happening. His legs felt weak, his heart impossibly full. Simon glanced toward the judges, then back to the stage. A small, knowing smile crossed his face. "You know," Simon began, pausing as the crowd leaned in, "this show is about discovering moments you never forget. And this is one of them." Before the boy could react, Simon turned and slammed his hand down. Bang! Golden confetti exploded from above, cascading like sunlight across the stage. Gasps turned into screams of joy. The boy froze, eyes wide, mouth open in shock.